to Restoring the Mind. My name is Khalid Mahmood. Today's topic is the regime change in Pakistan. My guest this week is Thomas Pochari, and he writes for the World Affairs Monthly. Welcome back, Tom.
Hi, Khaled, and good to talk to you again. As usual, we talk often, which is, as I said, pretty good. And I'm happy. I want to tell everybody I'm happy I'm not in Ukraine.
Okay. Uh, has the situation in Pakistan, the regime change, has that kind of surprised you in any way?
Not really, because the not. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that he was deposed like that so quickly. But on the other hand, I noticed, it was 6 months ago, a year ago, whenever I was looking at this, I took, I haven't been to Pakistan in a long time, 20 years, but things don't change that much. So I was looking at the debt of Pakistan, also the value of the currency, the Pakistani rupee. And I noticed, I think it was around 2018, if I recall, the debt started really exploding. And this was
Mhm.
principally under Imran Khan. Now, I think it started a little bit before, and I'm not sure. I have to go back and look. I tweeted on this in my what do you call it, Twitter account, Destructive Capital. But the also I noticed the Pakistani rupee. We talked about that earlier already, but it started really kind of depreciating against the hard currencies, principally the dollar, around 2018. Give or take 6 months. And I think Khan took charge, got into so-called office around mid 2000, July 2018. Is that correct?
Yes, but lately
Yeah.
I think there's been some publications by the PTI supporters, and they're
Oh yeah.
saying that the last month was the best month in terms of Pakistan's economic performance, and their
Oh good.
exports were
Okay.
very, very high, and etc.
Yeah.
So in economic terms, last
Okay.
month, so the economy was beginning to
Pick
um,
up. Yeah.
pick up. Yeah.
That could be because of the devaluation of the Pakistani rupee. It could be.
Mhm.
Again, I haven't been there in a long time, and I haven't really scrutinized the situation, but that could be a principal reason. And also their debt. So those two reasons could be for the Pakistani, but the debt is pretty high. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm not sure I can really say for sure, but I'm skeptical that things are picking up. But on the other hand, I have buddies there that do IT, really great guys, and they're just moving into a new office with high speed internet for the first time in 20 years. So you might have an argument there. So things are starting to pick up.
Okay.
But
What?
but yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead. Yeah. So did I answer the question? No, I'm not really surprised. I think, it again, I'm repeating myself, but I think it's really kind of an end of an era. And this era is sort of politics dominates. You vote, and the Ashkenazi Jews in Washington that rule the roost. They control everything. They're promoting everybody voting. Everybody deciding something on. We get to consensus. It's all cute and everything. This era is coming to an end because the countries that the nations around the world that have kind of they're deprived, right? They're generally speaking deprived of all the Western standard of living, things that we take for granted.
I
They
mean,
are
I
beginning.
agree with you that they are kind of concerned about the Pakistan developing, and as well as Pakistan's relationship with China. And today
Oh yeah, yeah.
they have kind of pushed Pakistani government to kind of slow down the progress on CPAC, and the Pakistani government has responded by kind of
Okay.
dissolving or cutting off this organization called CPAC Authority,
CPAC.
whatever that
Okay.
was, whatever that did, I
Yeah.
don't know. But they
All
are
right.
kind of not really concerned about the CPAC, and I think the CPAC had played a big role in uh, causing the regime change, in my view, to some extent.
Okay. I think
What's
you're
your
right.
what do you think was the driving force
Yeah,
behind this?
no, well, I'm speculating, but I'm going to say I think you're absolutely right. I suspect it's very, very likely that the Ashkenazi Jews in Washington got very nervous about Imran Khan because he was accelerating and emphasizing, accelerating the rapid relations with, accelerating the relations with China, and he was responding to my call that Pakistan needs a development dictatorship. And I use dictatorship in the kind of a general sense, but I'm just saying, forget the voting. You're going to have a one-party state. The party's going to be devoted to economic development, and the Chinese, have done this and been very successful. And I promoted that on the net, on my principally my Twitter account.
This
And
might actually lead to the system changing to presidential system. So
yes,
at the moment, right, I would. There's a joke around Pakistan that is always on the crossroad, is always facing some kind of difficulty, and
yeah,
it's never been far off from the crossroads anyway. But this
right,
time it is on the crossroads again,
yeah,
and the crossroad this time is that. On one side, it could actually go towards a presidential system. They could have the election pretty soon, and the whole thing could, roll out as well the way you mention it.
yeah,
But on the other hand, if the Americans keep up their pressure, and the military actually does not want to bring Imran back, and
yeah.
that could actually lead to civil disobedience and civil unrest in the country,
It
because
may
at the
do that.
moment
Yeah,
the
yeah,
things have been hyped up to that level. Okay, that bringing that temperatures down is, I don't think it is in the hands of Imran Khan as much. Neither is in the army. The military has
mhm,
definitely lost control. The people are not,
really, yeah,
yeah, the people are not interested in the army,
yeah.
and they see the army as uh,
Impediment,
being, yeah, accomplice in this whole
right.
thing.
Keeping them
And
down. That's what I said. I've been arguing this for a long time. I think this era is closing where the people around the world, and I'm talking about dark skinned people, people who are poor, they really don't have much and they can't do much. They're no longer going to tolerate their situation, and they may be listening to me. Of course, the Chinese have led the way. They've proven to the world that this is actually possible. Now, I think Chinese have done extraordinarily well. Maybe the Pakistan, the Dravidians in Pakistan, might not be as awesome, but it'd be pretty good. I'm just being frank with you. I mean, you could even do it in Africa. You could have pretty minimal, I'd say minimal, but high living standards. High in the sense that you can't. I'm not like Western Europe and the United States, but you'd have pretty good living standards, and everybody would be feeling pretty good about their prospects. And I think
you know,
this is the new era that we're
there's
facing.
a. I think you touched on something which was, I was wondering about something earlier myself, and that is
Yeah.
the food shortages. I
Okay.
mean, in my view, right, I'm thinking that if Imran Khan had stayed there, I think that he would have kind of because he's in the past has given subsidy to the people in petrol, diesel, etc., and as well as in other matters. Okay, and
Yeah.
even though the IMF did not want that, but he has given them subsidy, which the new government has taken away.
I
So I
see.
think that in the West, right, the governments are very complying to this new world order and the new Great Reset, and they are kind of creating food shortages in their countries quite a lot. I mean, even in the UK, right, people are kind of they are rationing the sunflower oil and some of the other
Yeah.
oils, like for
Yeah.
example the
That's
meat.
because of the Ukraine war, though,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Ukraine. So the meat and the bread and everything, certain shortages. But I think that if Imran Khan had stayed there, I think, and that was the problem that Imran Khan was trying to do, is solve the food shortages crisis, food shortage.
Yeah.
So he went to Russia and to bring the wheat and bring the gas and oil,
I
etc. deal.
I
And
see.
now the those in the new world order will be kind of enjoying it, because this new regime will have no sympathy for the people, and they
I
will
see.
get away with the food shortages. So the food shortages will be is probably the one of the big reasons why Imran Khan was removed, because
I
he was trying to solve the problem of food shortages, whereas the new government will actually create food shortages.
hmm. So the new government is effectively back to the old ways.
Back to the old ways, exactly. I mean, I think the Bilawal Bhutto, he's said that he's, when as soon as they got the power back to them and won the elections in the parliament, and he said, "Welcome to Purana Pakistan," meaning the old Pakistan.
I see.
So the old ways are back, yes. So now the food shortages are definitely on the table for the Pakistanis.
Well, let's go to the fundamental issue. And I think, when Benazir Bhutto, Mrs. Bhutto, her people in Washington came to me in 2006, and I think you remember, Kelly, when that happened,
Hmm.
she wanted to be interviewed by me. And tragically, she was killed the day I was going to interview her. I was going to, because I'm 12 hours ahead or behind or whatever, behind. And she was killed, but really would like to have known what she was going to say at the time. I don't know, but what I'm getting at is that it's been 20 years now. Well, 15 years since pretty much everybody in Pakistan has a mobile phone. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, now they can't really surf the net really easily with a mobile phone, but they can, right? You can do it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So this means that what, 200 million people in Pakistan? How many?
220.
Okay, 220 million
Yep.
effectively have access to information that they never had access to before. So it's beginning to have an effect on public opinion, right? That's my opinion. You see?
Yes.
And this is the beginning of a complete reversal of the old ways of Pakistani governance since the creation of the state in the 40s. It's a total reversal, in my opinion. Now you did we did an excellent talk one time about the internet information. I can't remember which one it was, and you asked me why isn't it happening faster? Well, it's a tough life in Pakistan, right? For middle income, low income people, it's very
Yes.
tough.
Yes.
Yeah. So they don't really think every day, okay, I'm going to spend 3 hours on the net with my mobile phone, right? But they get exposure, and we have to remember that the Soviet Union, probably one of the principal reasons it just disintegrated is because everybody in the Soviet Union was exposed to what was going on outside the Soviet Union, and things were really fucked up in the Soviet Union. So they knew it was fucked up. So they took took charge and got rid of it, government.
I think no, you hit the nail on the head there because I think there are certain quarters in Pakistan who do not want to see any change.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean,
yeah.
for example, if you look at, I mean, in the past, right, in the kind of what I'm going to say now was nobody could actually think that anybody in Pakistan would be talking about it
Hmm.
because the military had actually um, attempted or tried to kind of keep their image clean, and even though some of the dirty laundries and dirty deeds were kind of nobody would dare talk about it, but now all the people and anybody and everybody is talking
Yeah,
about how
yeah.
much the military was involved in the previous assassinations of their previous leaders. I mean, for
Wow.
example, Liaquat Ali Khan, who was killed soon after the creation of Pakistan, who was the military involved in that? Okay,
Hmm.
who was the military actually involved in the killing of Bhutto?
Were they?
Which
No,
uh,
well, Bhutto, yeah, they could have been involved.
right in Bhutto they were involved, and
They were.
what
They
about
were.
the
Yeah.
generals? Yeah, so they were most likely involved in the his death as well. They were probably what do you call it? Given the green light to it, even though don't know who was in behind it, but the
Well,
Pakistani military must have kind of known about it and must have kind
I'm.
of
Yeah.
allowed it to happen. And the
Yeah.
same thing
Maybe
for
they
the
organized it. They organized it.
probably
Yeah.
organized it. And same thing for the Benazir Bhutto. Okay, I mean
I
Imran Khan
can't.
has
Yeah.
actually Imran
Yeah.
Khan has actually said in a number of speeches and taunting Bilawal Bhutto that are you aligning with the people who were kind of were part and parcel of the people who killed your grandfather?
Mm.
But you didn't mention his mother and the same
Yeah.
people that killed. them killed his mother as well.
Right.
So, no, in the past, the Pakistani military tried their best to keep their image clean, but
Yeah.
with this, I think they lost control of the narrative now, and people are kind of not talking about all the crimes or many of the other crimes that
Yeah.
they may or may not have committed. I mean, we don't know because they always deny
Mhm.
it. So, but people are saying that, asking questions. So I'm
Yeah.
just reiterating what I've heard from other
Yeah.
people talk about. Okay,
Mhm.
whether it's true or not is a different matter. But
Right.
this kind of narrative was not um, common. It's not was never thought of. Nobody would ever
Mhm.
dare to talk about something like this. So the change
Mhm.
actually is kind of happening, and the military may have unwillingly or probably just triggered it and
Mhm.
this change. But yes, I think to some extent the military is the old guard, part of the old guard, and
Yeah, no
in
doubt.
their attempt to kind of keep the status quo, keep the old ways of doing things, because they
Mhm.
being the way they are, I don't know how they could even allow the changes to take place. I mean, same thing with America. America doesn't want any changes to happen. Americans want the status quo as well. They want the dollar to
Mhm.
kind of remain in
Mhm.
power, and then to remain the reserve as a reserve currency. So the dollar is kind of played a major role in this regime change. What do you think?
Well, the dollar is still pretty strong. I brought up a chart what a day or so ago. I can get it right now, but here let me bring it up. It shouldn't take too long here. Dollar index, okay. Um, okay, trading economics. Okay, this is I put in the in search engine US dollar index chart trading economics, and I've got so tradingeconomics.com, and I'm going to go to all data. So this is the dollar index, and of course, people should know that the dollar index is like the dollar against a basket of other currencies, but principally the Western currencies. So let's see, it doesn't say here, but it's a euro, it's a Japanese pound, it's a British pound, a Japanese yen, British pound, etc. Okay, so we're now at 101, and back in 2010, it was down to 71.
So
So,
it's lost quite a bit, then nearly a third.
well, I mean, it's gained. It's gained. It's gained. It's back up to 101. It was down in 2008 at 68.
Hmm.
See, so 2008 was so at the kind of the peak of the crisis in Wall Street, and it was down to 78. Let's see. Okay. No, even 62. Excuse me. It was down to 62, and now it's back up
Yeah,
to
but
100.
Tom, I mean that data, how reliable is that data? I mean, the
Oh,
thing
it's
is, all
reliable.
when
No,
you're
it's
comparing it to other currencies, which are
yeah,
all fraudulent, fiat money itself, and doesn't
yeah,
hold
yeah.
any value.
Well,
So, in that,
no,
looking
no.
at it from that, I think the only thing we should be able to compare it against is the gold. Okay, I
Okay.
mean that is a
All
gold
right.
standard. I mean,
Well, the dollar against the gold. We here. Let me see if I can get that. I know. I know where I can get that.
okay.
Okay, so I'm going to be I'm at Charts Are Us, CHARTSRUS.com,
Hmm.
CHARTSRUS.com. Okay, and I will get a gold. Okay, precious metals. Um, let's see here. Um, oh darn. I haven't been here in a long time, but this is all against the dollar anyway.
Well,
So I'm going to get
I would say that I'm guessing, but I would say the dollar has lost considerable value against the gold over the
it.
years.
Well, it has. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that chart for you. Okay, so 600, 650 years historic gold price. Let's just take a look at this. Okay, so this is uh, the price of gold from 1344 till 1998.
Hmm.
Right? And I think what people should realize is that, and you're going to like this argument, Kelly, because I think this is what I used to argue all the time in worldaffairsmonthly.com. But I'm going to go back to work here. But all right, so obviously this kind of these numbers are a little dubious, but not that much. Okay, so gold was effectively uh, from 1344 until about 1550. Gold was about between 2,000 and $2,350 an ounce, between $2,000 and $2,350 an ounce, right? And then when the Spanish went to the New World and found all the gold in the Western Hemisphere with their colonies, it plunged to basically $300 from 1500. It took a little while to get to 300, but it went from basically from 2,350 all the way to $300. And like I said, you can't take this chart extremely seriously, but I think this is probably relatively accurate. It remained at about $300, $400, $500 for until now.
Hmm.
Now it did shoot up in the 70s when we had rampant inflation in the United States. It shot up to 1560. $1,500.60. Of course, these numbers, I think I have to, this is a logarithmic scale. So, but the audience can look at this. I mean, basically, the argument would be gold is stood the time of test of time very well. But if you compare this to the dollar, to a fiat currency, to paper money, yes, I think the American dollar has lost about the full value of its dollar, that lost about its full value in 100 years.
Right. Until the dollar loses its value, right, the Pakistani government would remain under pressure.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So how
Yeah.
long do you think the dollar has until it can hold on to its power as a
Do,
reserve currency? And
yeah.
because I would say to some extent that as long as the Europeans are funding it, as long as the Europeans are using the dollar as a reserve currency, it will continue to remain strong. So how long will it take for the Europeans to dump the dollar? That would be a more accurate question.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to answer. We talked about this before, but here's my answer. Dave Cullum, Collum. He's a
Mhm.
professor of organic chemistry at Cornell University, which is obviously a very hot top level Ivy League college in Ithaca, New York. He and I are friends, and I just interviewed him. And you can go to worldaffairsmoney.com to listen. We were just about to talk about that, and he asked me the same question. I think, to be utterly frank and brutally honest with everybody, I'm going to say that this inflation that we now have in the United States, it's elevated, compared to what it's ever been, right, for 40 years. And it's about 7 to 15%, depending on, what you look at. It's pretty ample inflation. When when the public, when the public, general public, and when the investing public and also the folks around the world that hold a lot of dollars, when they realize that this inflation is not really going to be brought under control, so we have another, when they realize this, the deterioration of the value of the dollar will start to rapidly increase. There will be a lot of pressure on the dollar. But remember, we had a lot of growth in the world economy from 2002 to 2008, and the dollar declined a lot. It was up at 120. This is dollar index, and now it was down at the bottom. It was in April 2008. It was down at like 65. So that was because the world was developing. So in fact, what's really ironic about this is as America's deposed, right, as a big hegemon, there will be more economic development around the world, and the dollar will devalue. But the
Sure.
problem is the dollar index, as you correctly pointed out, the dollar index is really a reflection of the dollar against other competitors in the dollar zone, right? So,
Mhm.
see what I'm saying? I mean, the dollar zone is global, and then you got the yen, you got the euro, so British pound. So this, I think the Swiss franc. I'm not sure. I think it is. So there you have it. You really cannot say, and currencies are really one of my specialties. Jim O'Neill, the founder of the acronym BRICS, he was a friend of mine, and he and I always talked about currency. But anyway, so I'm not sure you can really go by all this data. I'm thinking that the 500, go back to the gold chart. The gold chart tells me, and I wrote this in World Affairs Monthly or WAM, 10 years, 15 years ago. The gold chart tells me that 500 years, and I think you've argued this too, 500 years of development is coming to an end, and the stability of fiat currencies, largely dominant in the world, right? Nobody really questions them, is coming to an end.
Okay. One
And so
question,
when
actually,
that happens, yeah,
last question, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
think we kind of come to
okay.
1 second.
But I didn't really answer it. So,
Okay, sorry.
all right, okay, no,
You
it's
can answer.
okay.
You can answer first. Last
Okay,
question.
well, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to say that for another 3 years, give or take a couple of years, maybe 3 to 5 years, when it's apparent, to most people, when it's pretty obvious to most people that the inflation in the United States, and of course, inflation in the dollar, the deteriorating the value of the dollar, when that's clearly, pretty damn obvious that the authorities in Washington can't really do much about it,
Hmm.
then that's the beginning of the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if they can do something about it and they diminish it to some degree, it's like volatile, it goes up, it goes down, or whatever. But I don't think that'll be the case. I think the dollar will be under this inflation threat for the indefinite future. And the debt of the United States is really high as a ratio of our income, our revenue, government revenue. So it's really all about the federal government in Washington being able to fool the public. It's like the Pakistani army. The Pakistani army's got control of everything. They're trying to fool the ordinary Pakistani blokes. They're trying to fool everybody, right? Everything's good. We're going to be fine. But it's not the case, right? So
Okay.
pile up on gold, buy all the gold and silver and copper you can get, because the Pakistani rupee and the dollar are going to become worthless.
Okay. Last question,
Yeah.
and that is about the American interference in Pakistan.
Mm.
But I'm going to make the question a bit more general, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has been obvious for the last 20 years that American empire is on the decline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's why they went to Afghanistan. That's why they went to Iraq. That's why they went to Libya. That's why they went
Yeah.
to steal the oil. Okay,
Sure.
and steal the
Absolutely.
natural resources and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Iraq would have kind of sold oil to the Americans anyway, even if had they wanted to. And
Yeah.
I think that was the question that you were kind of discussing with
Dave Cullum was saying
Dave
that.
Collum.
Yeah.
Okay, so they would have kind of given the oil, sold the oil, sorry, to any buyer, including the Americans. Why did these Ashkenazis decide that war is the best option or the only option? Why go and declare war in the Middle East and in all of countries? Why kind of get a regime change in Pakistan? Everything when
Right.
Imran
When
Khan
they
would
got to do a deal,
Have happily kind of traded
done
with
a deal. Yeah.
Pakistan, with the Americans, and I don't think Imran Khan is anti-American. Okay, he
No,
would have traded
no,
and everything. He
he
would have been
was
fine.
married to Jimmy Goldsmith's daughter.
Exactly. So why would the Ashkenazi Jews want hostility and war and killing and everything in the Asia? Why?
Well, the British did the same thing. I mean, in the case of Iraq, I just wrote an article about this. I wouldn't be surprised to learn someday that one of the reasons, maybe the most important reason to go into Iraq was to prevent me from interviewing Saddam Hussein. The audience may find it hard to believe, but I think it's probably true. Now, in case of, okay, they wanted the oil, they want the proceeds of the oil, they want the proceeds, they want to be able to lick off whatever, suck off the proceeds of the oil. And of course, they want control, possibly control via their little puppets. And Pakistan, I mean, they want to prevent China from developing Pakistan. And they want to, as you said, correctly said, they want to prevent that corridor from being built, trade corridor, whatever you want to call it, CPEC or whatever, CPEC, to be not really ever effectively finished. They don't want that because the Chinese will have access to the Indian Ocean. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, if once it's complete and once it's running, it would kind of allow the whole
And
region to develop,
and
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 the China would become much more stronger than it already is.
oh yeah, I mean, China would then be able to build factories all over South Asia, right? Asia
Sure.
and South Asia there, and all of these people who are poor can then work and do things and build themselves up and have income. That's not the case now. It's a pretty miserable place. Now, it's certainly better than it was in 1990s when I was there. A little bit better, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm not
Um,
sure it's all that much better. We
so
looked
would
at
you
the
agree that the whole problem the world is facing is the Brahman problem syndrome, I would call, and
yeah.
that is kind of, like in India, there are these Brahmins there who think that they are
Entitled
inherently,
to be
su-
rulers.
su- yeah, superior than others. I mean,
Well,
similar
that's
to
certainly true.
the.
I mean, well, I think there's a lot of truth to that. They think they're entitled to be rulers when in
So
fact they're
basically,
not.
same thing with the West, and same thing with the Jews, and same thing with
Yeah,
the
yeah, the
Hitlers and
Alphonse,
everything. So
yeah,
no, that is something that led to the wars, and that is something that has led to the regime change in Pakistan.
I think so. I think the regime change, as you probably, you argued pretty well, is really a function of maintaining the old system and making sure that there's no development taking place dominated by China.
Exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
I think more or less we covered some of the most
Okay.
of the topics that we wanted to, and we'll leave it at that.
Can I make a final statement?
Yes, sure, sure, sure.
There's no stopping this change. So, all these shitheads, whatever you call them, these elite shitheads, Ashkenazi Jews, the Pakistani army, whatever, Modi, they can squirm all they want, they can fling their weight around all they want. It's not going to change anything because the cost of information has been lowered and it's really low, and the brain is going to respond. Okay, yeah, maybe there's different types of brains. Some are much more powerful than others, African brains, whatever, dark skinned people, maybe, but I do think eventually the brain is going to respond and there will be hyper development taking place compared to what we have now. Will be much more sophisticated. Question is, what will the cost be to get there? It might be pretty nasty, all out war. I don't know. Could be. That's my final statement.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very, very
Good,
much,
good to
Tom.
talk to you, Glenn.
Okay,
Yeah,
you too.
yeah.